All right, let's get started. 20 frames, holiday lighting that will wow. So first thing I'm gonna show you here is what you're gonna need. It's the same plaid frames we used for the fireplace surround. If you haven't seen that video, take a look. Some chopping mats, some Waverly antique wax, and some snowflakes from the Dollar Tree, as well as a stapler. And of course your painting implements, or whatever you choose to use. So I like to start obviously by opening up the frames and then also taking out those little tabs that keep the picture or whatever you've got in. In this particular design, we're not going to need them. So, alrighty. Then we're just going to jump into staining this. This is my Waverly antique wax that I've added a little bit of water to. It just makes it nice and easy to apply. I'm actually using half of a sponge from this pack that I buy from the Dollar Tree. I find it incredibly useful when I am doing staining projects like this, or even painting lots of things at once. I personally hate painting, so it's much more relaxing for me to do this. Also make sure that you get the inside of the frame and the outside. So I settled on this snowflake kind of chain design or whatnot that Dollar Tree had. I just liked the size of the snowflakes and how they kind of fit with the frame. So I'm just taking them apart right now so that I can prep them for staining. So again, with these, I'm going to utilize the same Waverly stain and go ahead and get that on, and then just make sure you stain the whole thing and any sides or anything like that. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All right, so everything is stained. This is where you come in and add a little bit of flair if you so choose. I like to just kind of distress these a little bit. It just makes it seem more worn. And that's something I like in my designs. So this is it after it's been sanded. So now we're going to measure the opening of the frame so that we know how big our chopping mats need to be. So I'm just using my little T-square that I got from the Dollar Tree and kind of measuring that opening and then just marking it with my marker, so that I can remember, because I have one of the worst memories of all time, just where those measurements are. Once you have those measurements, you just want to go ahead and mark those off on your chopping board, which is what I'm doing right now. So mine wound up being 5 by 7 was the size that I chose to go with. So you just see me right now marking that off and going ahead and getting that traced fully out. So once that's been traced out, I just went ahead and cut that square off, and then now I'm going back in and just using that as a template for tracing the additional frames or the additional pieces that I will need. And you need 4 altogether. Once you have those traced and cut out, you just grab your stapler, average run-of-the-mill office stapler, and just go ahead and affix these. I find this nicer than glue. It's certainly a lot easier. So boom, our first frame has its chopping mat in. So once the chopping mat is in the frame, I then grab my stained snowflakes and a pencil, and these particular snowflakes, because of how they were hanging, had a little circle on 2 ends, and I used that as kind of a guide to help me mark where I was going to put my hot glue. And then I basically rotated it so that the part that I glued was not the part with the circle, if that makes sense. So just adding my hot glue, and I will place down the snowflake. Okay, that is all the frames together with their snowflakes and their chopping mat. So now what we're gonna do is just the basic assembly, if you will, of this into a box. This is usually where I struggle in a project. I do not know why, but somehow putting things together in a box is and always will be a bit of a struggle for me. But relax and watch me do it, and maybe you'll find something in there that'll keep you from having to struggle when you put yours together. Okay, we are getting involved here in craft number 2. We need 4 of these silver frames, some Mod Podge, basic paints, and a couple of Christmas trees. I got 1 bag of cutouts from the Dollar Tree and then 1 from, I think it was JoAnn, and I opted to use the JoAnn ones because they were a better fit for the project. So we're going to take the frames apart and just break it on down to the silver frame part and the glass pieces. I always save my inserts just in case I want to use them for a later project. But in this particular project, we just need the glass and the frames. Going ahead and giving the glass a clean, because if you've ever had Dollar Tree glass, you know it can sometimes be filthy. So, yep, here are my JoAnn trees and my Dollar Tree trees. You can use either one. I liked the JoAnn trees because they had more cutouts, and since this is a light, I thought that would make more sense. So going ahead and taking that paint, which was my red mixed with the black so that I could get a little bit deeper of a red color. I didn't want it to be too bright, but I also wanted it to kind of, still be reminiscent of the holidays. So going ahead and, again, using my sponge technique to get these cutouts covered. So now that I've got those fully painted, I just go ahead and close up my little container. I love these containers. They hold snacks. I got them in a thing of 12 from the Dollar Tree, so I highly recommend that if you ever want to reuse the paints that you've used in the past. Stores them pretty well. So now I'm just using my Mod Podge and white paint in it because I actually do want to kind of have it frosted. So I'm just going across kind of single stroke, same direction, with the Mod Podge across that glass. Again, that's the effect we're going for, is kind of a little bit of a frosted streak. So now that I've gotten all 4 of those panels done, and my trees have dried, I'm getting ready to add them onto the panels. Just checking to make sure I had it level, adding just a little bit of hot glue. You don't need too much for this. And then getting it placed down as best as I can in the center. I am just eyeing it up. You also want to make sure on the top and bottom that you leave yourself just a little bit of room, because that frame does sit on top of that glass, so you don't want to get into a situation where it does not fit. So now that I have all of my panes with my trees attached, I'm now taking my frame back out and going ahead and adding the pane back inside of the frame. So pulling up those little tabs, which is one of my least favorite things to do, and getting those all put back down. That by itself would also be a really cool craft. Just, you could use these as a wall hanging. Yeah, there's tons of different crafts that you could do if you stopped at this point and just used these individual frames with the frosted glass and trees. So right now I'm just going through and just securing my edges so that my frames don't wobble. The glass doesn't wobble in the frame. And here we are doing my struggle box creation once again. Through it. Make sure you wipe away any excess glue that comes out. And yep, we just keep going and struggling our way through it until we get her all put together. So again, hopefully in watching me, you can better understand how to create these boxes. One of my confusions is, the sides don't all match up in the exact same way. Some go inside, some go outside. So watching the pros, not necessarily me, but I'm doing it pretty good today, is the way to learn how to create a box that actually fits together like a box. Okay, so we are on to craft number 3. And oh my goodness, how many of these tiny little cute or adorable little frames do I have? I think these are usually for name cards or placeholders, but I love to use them for crafts. I have the letters out, those letter stickers from the Dollar Tree, but I actually wind up using something else, which is these cutouts that I did with construction paper. I had a scrap piece of fabric, very, very Christmassy, and I managed to cut out the word joy, and now I am applying it to my pieces of glass using Mod Podge. In this particular case, I'm using the same Mod Podge I did last time, and so there is a little bit of white paint in it, so when this dries, it will have a little bit of a white kind of look to it. It will not be fully clear, but that's okay for me and my project. So once I get that on, I just like to come through with my paintbrush and give it that kind of effect where it's the lines that are all kind of going the same direction. It just helps with the frosted look. Once that dries, I go ahead and add my panes back inside of my frames. And I do that by adding a little bit of glue on each point to make sure that it's secure. And then I also run a bead just for extra security because I am incredibly nervous that a piece of glass will fall out. So I usually am overly cautious about that. And there they are. So now that we have the glass firmly secured in the frames, we're gonna go ahead and, yes, that's right, do my favorite part again, which is put together another box. So you've seen me already do this twice. I think you know what we're gonna do here. So, yep, that is pretty much the end of this one, except of course you have to do it 3 times to complete your boxes for all 3 of your letters, your J, your O, and your Y. And again, I'm just putting some reinforcement in on my edges just to make sure that my frame stays together. Another thing to note is I opted just to spell the word joy, but you could easily do this with as many frames as you wanted, spell Noel, whatever lights your fancy. And here we have it, the reveal. I think these all came out incredibly. Oh my goodness, look at this. And then with the lights off, stop it. Those are beautiful. These will fit into any of your holiday decor. I hope you choose to give one of these or all of these a try. Okay, once again, we here at BOK Media Life are glad that you stopped in. If you loved the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. And if there's anything on your mind, we appreciate those comments. Thanks again, and have a really good and safe holiday.